freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right.
The big government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
Welcome to another episode of Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, S.M. Gibson from UCY.TV, coming to you all the way from San Diego, California. Joining the studio here tonight with the editor-in-chief of Anti-Media himself, Mr. Nick Bernabe. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really well, other than the fact that my computer just crashed on me, but other than all that, I'm doing good. I'm excited to get into the show tonight. There's a lot of news that we need to cover, and there's some, like always, there's some really interesting, stories that are out there, some interesting perspectives that we're going to be talking about tonight. And, as always, it's going to be a slight variant of our typical message, which is, calling out the corruption for what it is, and trying to tell the truth about what's going on. And so, hopefully tonight it'll be another episode, another lesson in what in the hell is actually going on in the world,
Absolutely. And if anybody's interested in calling in tonight, please feel free at area code 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. As we start the show every Tuesday and Thursday, we're here to inform you and give you the information that the mainstream media and the corporate media refuses to give you. So let's discuss the police brutality statistics real quick. 51 police officers have died in the line of duty so far this year. 51 compared to 455 Americans that have been killed by police officers. That is not good odds right there.
It's a stark difference comparatively. It's a huge difference in the amount of people that are being killed by the cops compared to the average cops that are killed by people. And you'd think it'd be like the opposite, because all this propaganda is out there. It's like, well, cops.
Well, I'm not suggesting. Well, before you go any further, nobody wants 455 cops killed either.
Of course not. But of course, what we hear out there, the propaganda that we hear is that being a police officer is the most dangerous job out there, and they're out there doing their thing, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what you would think is that maybe the cops would be dying by a lot higher rate because they're supposedly putting their lives on the line on a regular basis. But the fact of the matter is that there's more people dying than there are cops.
Oh well, I mean, again, 51 versus 455. So there is a massive difference in that. And also, I want to kind of get into this a little bit. This is kind of more significant than it usually is. I always give the murder statistics and the gun rate statistics of Chicago because of their strength of their gun laws there. and we've had 159 people killed. In the city of Chicago so far this year, 935 people have been shot. And the reason this statistic is more relevant than usual is over the weekend, Memorial Day weekend, 12 people died in the city of Chicago. 44 people were injured, meaning 56 people were shot in a city that has super strict gun laws. So if gun laws work, why don't we just have 56 people get shot over a weekend? 12 people are dead.
I mean, it just goes to show that you can't sit there and just you can't just ban, you can't ban guns and try to expect that to solve the issue of crime when in the very essence of it, a lot of what's going on over there, a lot of the reason there's violence is because it's because of the government. And Chicago, you look back at the root of the mass violence over in Chicago and all the organized crime and all the gangs and all that stuff. Well, it goes back to the days of the mob. It goes back to the days of Prohibition. You know what I mean? That's when Chicago got completely corrupted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it absolutely is. And the last statistic that we always give on the show, again, it's more prevalent than usual. And for all the listeners out there that knows my beef with Saudi Arabia, well, we finally did it. We've talked about it all year, and it is now, we're in May. It's May the 26th. Last year, Saudi Arabia beheaded 87 people. And now Saudi Arabia has beheaded 88 people so far in 5 months. 87 people was a record. And now they've broken the record in 5 months. This is, again, an ally of the United States. An ally of the United States. And yet we go attack ISIS because they're beheading people. Before I go any further, let me go ahead and bring on to the show Mr. Shannon Madden, our wonderful producer out there in Birmingham. I'll be seeing you Thursday, sir. I'm excited about it. How you been doing?
I've been doing absolutely wonderful. How you fellas doing tonight?
Can't complain, sir. So,
I can. Oh, I can definitely complain.
Fair enough. I tell you what, tell us.
Hey, I'm with you, man. I can complain too.
Yeah, nobody pays attention when I complain, so
Yeah.
just keep it to myself. But, so Shane, what do you think about it? Me and you have talked about this in great length about Saudi Arabia. They passed the number, 88 people beheaded.
Yeah, and also, too, though, going back to the number you just quoted, the number of police that have, or a number of citizens that have been murdered by the police. And I know that, we can't say that total number wasn't justifiable or non-justifiable homicide. But that number, when you look at the populations between the two, I don't know. I think we're kind of edging them out a little bit. I mean, we're only halfway through the year. And both of them are absolutely just appalling numbers. I don't know. I mean, what's worse, getting your head cut off and you die immediately, or you get, have to suffocate in the middle of the street because you were selling loose cigarettes? I mean, which one's worse, really, if you think about it?
Right. I mean, that's a great point. We were, I talked to you briefly earlier today on the phone, and you brought a story to me that I want you to kind of elaborate on, and I won't give any spoilers here, and I just want you to kind of talk for a second, Shannon, and tell people what you told me earlier.
This is what I was referring to when I said I had some complaints. We had a former police chief in Mount Airy, Georgia, who was currently, before he was incarcerated, was serving as, I believe he was serving in the a marshal's office or something like that. In Mount Airy, Georgia, which is also located in the same county that the police raid that ultimately wound up with an infant in his crib being injured by a flash grenade. He was sentenced to 25 weekends in jail. Listen to this story for a second. So his name is Richard Scott Burton. Don't forget that name, because you need to keep everybody that you know away from this guy. Him and his wife had adopted 4 children. And for years, they were continually abusing them. And we're not just talking about, spanking or, locking them in a room or something like that, although this includes that. There were also allegations of child molestation, which he was charged with, but ultimately those charges were dismissed. He was initially charged with 31 felonies, including 2 acts of aggravated child molestation.
Just in case people are just tuning in here, remind people who this man is again, that these crimes...
Richard Scott Burton, the former chief of police of Mount Airy, Georgia, a small town in Mount Airy, Georgia, or a small town in Georgia. Chief of police, he was in charge of all of his little police officers there. Initially charged with 31 felonies, including 2 acts of aggravated child molestation, 1 count of child molestation, and 28 counts of first-degree cruelty to children. His wife was charged with the same 28. She wasn't charged with molestation charges, so we know who was doing that. His wife was charged with 28 counts of first-degree cruelty to children. But here's the sick part about all of this. He was eventually, because the prosecution was going to have to face the defense's witnesses of a bunch of current police personnel that he has worked with over the years. People that are fine, upstanding police officers of the community. They eventually struck a deal with this former police chief, Richard Scott Burton. 1 count, all the other counts, all 30 counts were dropped, including, most importantly, the child molestation charges, aggravated child molestation. Aggravated. We're not just talking about his touching kids, aggravated child molestation. I don't even want to begin to understand or comprehend what an aggravated child molestation charge entails. They struck a plea deal, and he's only got to serve 1 count, second-degree cruelty of children. And listen to this. This is what his admission of guilt is on record. All right, this is part of the plea deal. The one offense they pled guilty to, him and his wife, was their failure to provide an adequate diet. And a diet that was so horrible that it retarded all 4 children's growth.
So wait, you're saying 31 counts, child molestation, and they're charging...
No. Aggravated child molestation. 2 counts of aggravated child molestation and 1 count of child molestation were included in those.
They didn't provide the adequate diet is how they got in trouble legally.
That's it. Yeah, I'm sorry, we didn't feed them right. We'll go to jail for 25 weekends, and we'll accept 10 years probation.
You told me this part earlier, and I want people to really hear this. The punishment that these people got.
If you want to call it that. So basically, they have to, instead of them spending their weekends doing what they want to, they got to go check in and sit in jail for a weekend, and then they get out on Monday, go about their lives. They come back on Friday evening.
Weekend jail. They go to jail for 25 weekends in a row. That means they're free for 5 days a week. They could be just raping children for 5 days a week.
Absolutely.
As crass as that sounds, that's literally what they were doing. And they're going to go to jail for 25 weekends. How is that a punishment? How are you taking somebody that's done something wrong off the streets to get them away from this environment so they can commit that crime again, and you give them 5 days free?
It's insane.
The thing that I was most shocked by was the fact that he's not still on paid administrative leave like we hear about so often.
Kidding.
Yeah, at least he's not being paid this whole time, But to me, it's once again, it's this bigger problem of do as I say, not as I do.
Well, do you think his pension stopped? We all know he has a pension if he was the chief of police. That's a great question. I don't know if you know the answer to that, Shannon, but...
Now, what would happen if some other sick, twisted mother effer got caught up doing this? Some regular guy.
They would be under the prison.
They'd be screwed.
Absolutely.
They should be under the prison.
And
you're talking about probably, in a normal case, probably about 10, 20 years just on the aggravated child molestation charges for the average citizen.
And here's the thing. It's horrible. You know, Darren Wilson, Panatello in New York with Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, whatever. The list goes on and on and on. Those are horrible things, and people should have been held accountable over and over and over. But, you know, you get a sect of this country that defends that stuff because, oh, well, they're the police. Who's defending molesting children? Show me that person.
I would love for the same people that have defended all of these.
Let's go.
Obviously, it's the DA in that town that was supposed to be charging this guy with these crimes.
It's sick. People are sick.
Well, and that was, the story, of course, I read from several sources. One source was the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that quoted the prosecuting attorney as saying, well, you know, we had all of these police officers that were going to go to bat for him, and we didn't want to roll the dice and have a jury that might possibly be sympathetic to that. So we just went ahead and took this little plea deal, second-degree cruelty to children. He just didn't feed them right. That is his only admission of guilt on record, is that he didn't feed them right. That's it. Even though the police or the prosecuting attorney had enough to at least charge and indict him on 31 counts of first-degree cruelty to children. And you can read some of the sources. I don't really want to get into all of it because it's really a very, very, very upsetting story. And the most upsetting part about this is these are the people that are protecting us. These are the people that we hire. Our tax dollars go to hire to protect us. This is where your money's going, people.
Forgive me for the silence, Shannon, but my head just exploded trying to understand this and how any of this is possible. Like, if there are bad people with every profession, okay? And, you know, there's bad cops, there's bad every profession. But here's the problem that we have. If this man did this horrible thing, which clearly there's a lot of evidence that suggests they should put him under the jail, he would still be a
absolutely.
monster.
He should never see
He would be a monster.
Never see the light of free man again.
It would not reflect our system as a whole. The fact that this one man was a monster. They would have found this man that was a monster, and they would have reprimanded him, put him in jail, and put him where he should be. The problem is our system is so corrupt that because he was a police chief, he gets away with this and goes to weekend jail. Literally, weekend jail.
Yep.
That's horrifying. Horrifying. That's the country we live in right now. And people want to say that, you know, it's this one sect of the culture or this one sect of the culture that all these bad things are happening to, and clearly there are percentages that are worse than others. But to tell me you get charged with child molestation, clearly the problem is people are defending the badge. It's the police unions, and they're defending a badge because it's the government. And they can't get over this red, white, and blue deity that they worship. You've got to get over that. Everybody has to get over that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, there are good people, there are bad people, and then there's this. This isn't just normal. We're not talking about a guy that spanked his kids too hard or was a little too harsh on them. We're talking about some really, really sick, twisted shit.
It really is. I mean, yeah, it's depressing. It makes me depressed because we sit here and, you know, I'm not going to say I always do the best job of it, but I try to always say, you know, there's hope at the end of the day. There's a silver lining to everything. I still want people to understand how messed up things are, but we can come together and get past it. And we can with this too, of course, but good grief. How?
I mean, those children have to live with that for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
I mean, how do you get past something like that? I mean, those God bless those poor children.
Yeah, I mean, it's just mind-blowing to me. And, you know, and people may think that it's a coincidence. Oh, it's a coincidence who's a police chief. Yeah, right. There's no coincidence there. Anybody else that gets 31 counts against them and they weren't a police chief, what's going to happen to them?
Well, and also, or a person of affluence. You know, we can also throw that in there as well.
That's absolutely.
Those two go hand in hand. Those are buddies. You know.
Wow. I mean, it just...
Do as I say, not as I do. Everybody gets punishment except for the few. You know what I'm saying? Those few people that are
right.
that run the show, the few people that work for them, they never get punished. They never get held accountable. We talked about those big banks, that big fine that those big banks, $5.7 billion against 5 banks for rigging global currency markets since 2007. That was 8 years of rigging global markets, and they got fined $5.7 billion. We looked into it, and we found out that they could have covered those fines in overdraft fees alone. In overdraft fees alone, they could have covered those fines.
And I'm going to tell you one thing right now. That $5.7 billion is worth a lot more than it was when they first did this. So it's actually really monetarily, it's kind of almost even less if you think about it.
Right. So, okay. What do we do?
I mean, if this isn't enough to creep out the listening audience, I mean, we were really getting railroad here.
I'm creeped out. I'm sitting here talking to you as the host of the show, and I'm creeped out. Like, I don't even know what to say. This is what I think needs to happen. I think tomorrow morning we need to have a story on the front page of the antimedia.org talking about this story. We need to push a hashtag down people's throats, and we need this man to rot in prison, and not for 25 weekends. We need to get over this whole idea of, well, he had a nice job and he had a uniform, and, you know, our tax dollars paid for him. People have to get over that. There needs to be some sort of accountability. And if people cannot draw the line, if they can't hold somebody accountable for child molestation, society's gone. It's over. And you know, there is one interesting fact about this little case too, is that they also, in addition to those 25 weekends in jail, which, you know, if it were true that maybe the children went in and concocted some story, they didn't like the house that they were, you know, put in and this, that, and the other, then that probably would have been accompanied with 1 year probation, or, you know, involuntary probation when they're released, you know, check in and make sure you're doing the right thing. No, they were given 10 years probation. So the court knew and had enough evidence to go forth with it with a successful trial. And they knew that these people were dangerous, that they're going to have to be observed for 10 years. The court knows this. The prosecutor knew this. You know, this isn't a mistake, and in case anybody decides to want to paint it that way. Well, maybe there's a little bit more to the story. Maybe the kids were disgruntled and want to get out of that household. 10 years probation, that means that somebody did something pretty bad. But usually 10 years of probation comes with somebody who serves a very, very lengthy prison sentence, who's a danger to society, impossible danger to society when they get out. So, but, you know, 25 weekends, and that's before they do the probation. So they're just going to be, you know, just go, your kids behave, and we'll see you back here Friday. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm stunned. I'm rarely speechless. Everybody that knows me knows that, you know, I love to run my mouth just for the theater of it. But this one, I really don't have any words for. It's just beyond disgusting, and it's just a symptom and reflection of the sick culture that we live in right now.
Well, you want to talk about some theater? How about that? How about just the mere thought of 4 children sequestered in one room, which was the case. 4 children sequestered in a room that were not allowed to leave that room unless they did their chores or unless it was time to get either molested or beat. That's it. And eat whatever table scraps that they fed them, so bad that all 4 children suffered serious malnutrition and it stunted their growth.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and have to turn to a more positive topic because this is just infuriating me to the point
absolutely
that I'm going to have to put my fist through my computer.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's a rosy story from the great state of Alabama.
So that's where I've been here in California for the past couple of weeks, and this just happened. What you're about to discuss, I think it's great news. Go ahead and introduce it.
The state of Alabama, and we all know about Judge Roy Moore and a lot of the backwoods politics that have taken place here, particularly in the arena of the issue of marriage, particularly gay marriage. The state of Alabama, because it caused such a large furor nationwide, wisely went ahead and introduced a bill, Bill number 377, that ends licensing marriage through the government. Essentially, what that means, basically, now marriage has been reduced to a simple contract, which it should have been all along. And at one point in time, particularly in the state of Alabama, just that. You can go back and try to look up if you have any family members and try to trace back some of your family history in the state of Alabama. Up to a certain point in time, not too terribly long ago, some marriage records you couldn't find people that were together in a marriage relationship for so many years, unless they actually went and filed, just a simple contract. Hey, so-and-so is married so-and-so. Here it is, making a matter of public record. That was it. Well, now, of course, we know he's been married in the state of Alabama. I've been married a couple times in the state of Alabama. You have to go down to the courthouse. There's this big, long, drawn-out, procedure. And every single step of the way, it involves local government, local and state government. Well, now, basically what this does is this basically cuts the government out of it. If any ordained minister of any faith whatsoever, notary public, and a few other exceptions, just basically you these people and say, hey, I want to get married. You don't even have to have a ceremony or anything. We want to get married. They give you a little contract. You fill out the little contract, give it back to them, give them their little fee, and then they send it on to the probate judge. The probate judge does not get to decide whether you get married or not anymore. All they have to do is simply look at it, send it to where it's supposed to go as far as, information, vital statistics, and whatnot, and send it off to the proper channels, and that's it.
Man. Like, they need to continue this trend of getting out of people's personal lives. So let's start with marriage, and then let's start next with the drug war. You know what I mean? Let's get out of people's personal lives.
Me and you and Shannon have talked about this a lot. I've spoken about this with Nick a lot. I mean, I've never been afraid to say that I don't agree with gay marriage. And you know what? I don't agree with straight marriage because you're condoning the government to allow you to be married.
Absolutely.
You know what? The government has no place, straight or gay, to ordain love for people. They don't, period. And especially, and what's so funny to me is if you're a Christian, you should not be saying, well, the government's acknowledged my marriage, so it's right. No. Wrong. The complete opposite. If you believe that your love is ordained by God, then what does Uncle Sam have to do with it? It's insulting to straight marriage. It's insulting to the rights of people. It's insulting to everyone who loves each other everywhere.
Absolutely. And all this says is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Everyone should have the same rights, period. I mean, I've stressed this over and over and over. The government should not be in the business of marriage, straight or gay. Because you know what? The government is not God, and they're not there to,
And so, the cool thing about this law that's moving through Alabama Senate is that they have the option of just going and getting a marriage contract signed by either notary public, clergy member, or attorney. Notary public, I mean, these are just people that are these are just people that are certified by the government, and they have a license, and they can sign off on stuff for people legally. Clergy members, so people, pastors, whatever, preacher, whoever does the process for you at your church, or your attorney could sign off on it. And I mean, if we're talking about marriage and what it truly is, especially nowadays, it's it's a thing of love, and it's people committing to each other, but it's also a contract. And so
Absolutely.
it makes sense to have the attorney there. I mean, I wouldn't enter into a marriage straight, even being a straight person without having an attorney there, because I don't want I want to make sure that the contract is in good terms. You know what I'm saying?
But here's the thing, and this is where I think the real problem comes in between gay and straight marriage in this country, is that straight people have been allowed to be married, and you get certain benefits that come along.
Marriage is subsidized.
There you go.
You get certain benefits that come along with that quote-unquote marriage, and if a gay person wants to marry another person, then they don't get those benefits. That's ridiculous. That's stupid. Here's my thing. Why is anybody getting extra benefits or extra rights or whatever it is because they sign a sheet of paper? Everybody on day one should be afforded the exact same rights and freedoms, period. The same tax write-offs, the same everything.
Yeah, man. And so the government for a long time has been in this business of subsidizing marriage, and basically giving people these tax breaks if they get married, giving people these tax breaks if they have kids. So in the end, the government is subsidizing families. They're trying to subsidize family.
They've done a real bad job of it, if that's what they're trying to do.
And they have, and they've gone about it in the completely wrong way, and it really singles out all the people that are single too. Everyone that's single gets the short end of the stick as well, because we don't get any of these tax write-offs. We don't get any of these tax credits for being married or having a family and stuff, even though we do the same exact thing that married people do.
Right.
So I mean, it's hypocritical, man, and it's very discriminatory, I think. And it's one thing I wrote an article about it a really long time ago, man, and I talked about it actually on the first anti-media radio show I ever did. Is that single people are left out in this country too, by a lot of the laws and a lot of the economic situations, and it's just another side of the coin that is the amount of groups of people that are being oppressed on a constant basis by the government.
Right, and I think it's insulting to both sides of the argument, and I think I'm shocked that the first state to have done this was the state of Alabama. I mean, I never would have thought Alabama would have pushed forward, to me, revolutionary.
Now, I got one thing I got to add here, though, because I went and actually looked over the bill. I read the story, and then I actually pulled the bill up. And one thing that I didn't see, and I hope that anyone out there that's listening that knows a little bit more about this or can shed more light on this will please call in. I didn't see anything in there about if a brother or sister wanted to get married. The law is it's kind of a little vague. It's just if two consenting adults over the age of 18 want to enter into this contract, they can. Nobody can get in their way to do it.
Dude, it's Alabama. Of course they're not going to ban that kind of stuff.
This is Alabama, dude. Come on now. The only stipulations they've given is that either party is not already in a current contract with another adult. That's it. This is the only rule that forbids this.
In a perfect
anything
world,
in there that said
contract. In a perfect world, everybody would again be afforded the same rights and wouldn't need a contract for these kind of things. But I think it is a huge step in the right direction that we stop recognizing straight marriage, gay marriage, whatever, and just say there's two people that are adults. We sign a contract. There's some rights. I think that's great.
I love you, Mama.
And even if you want to make the moral argument that I hate gay people, blah, 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 blah. They're terrible. They're going to hell, whatever. Those same exact people that believe that are doing it for a moral basis based on God. And so God should come first, and yet they're putting the government first. It's so hypocritical and so much nonsense.
Well, but at the same time, though, let's be fair, though. This isn't a marriage or a marriage contract or whatever. Doesn't necessarily have to be based on religion. And that is that is a very touchy subject with a lot of people, because the word marriage, they instantly associate with a particular religion one way or the other. And there's plenty of atheist folks that I know that are married.
Sure,
They
absolutely.
just went down to the courthouse and signed their piece of paper, but they had to go to the courthouse to get it, and had to jump through all of the, legal loopholes that you have to go through when you go get a marriage certificate in the state of Alabama.
Absolutely.
So,
but
I'm all about it. I think it's cool. I really do.
I think it's great. I think, I absolutely applaud Alabama for doing it. And Nick, I would really like to get more of your point of view, because you've come to you've visited Alabama for a little bit. You've come and hung out with me there in Birmingham. But, you've been out here on the West Coast. It's a lot more laid-back vibe.
West Side?
So what is your impression of this? Do you wish California would do something like this, or what do you think?
Shit, man, I'm not even sure, man. My cousin is a lesbian, and she got married not too long ago. And I went to the wedding, and it was a wedding just like every other wedding. I mean, it was nice. It was fun. It was led by a religious guy, and, it was the guy that has done basically all the weddings in my family and stuff, and he did the wedding there. Even though it was a same-sex wedding, it didn't make a difference, man.
Right, but that's not the question to me. The question to me is should the government be allowed to grant you status and say, "Oh, now you're in love"?
I'm just glad that people are allowed to marry freely, but personally, I'm a person that, from my own perspective, I don't really believe in marriage at all. Really, I think it's kind of a prospect that is something. It's a road that I wouldn't personally want to go down. I just don't think it's something I'd ever want to.
And that's fair. And that's a personal thing.
And of course, that's just
enough.
me. And I know I've got friends that are married, and I know you're married, and that
right.
A lot of people go that route.
But
I think if we're gonna go the route, like, of course, I think government's inefficient at basically everything. So in the end, I think that the way of going about, as far as addressing marriage, the right way of going about it is just making it a simple agreement between two individuals, and that's it. It doesn't have to go through all this red tape in order for it to be considered an actual marriage. Oh, it's they're really married or they're not really married. It doesn't have to have all this red tape. It should just be an agreement between two individuals, and that's all. That's all it really has to be.
The government
and those
needs to get out of the
individuals
way.
can be, whatever orientation or whatever, anything. And I mean, I would highly, discourage brother and sister marrying. As like Shannon was saying, I mean, that new law out there kind of does leave that loophole open. I would highly discourage that, coming from a genetic standpoint, and
absolutely,
a lot of horrible things. But in the end, I mean, regardless of anything, I think two consenting individuals entering into a contract should be considered legitimate as long as they're voluntary, and that's really all that needs to be said about it, man. I mean, marriage doesn't have to be any different than any other contract. When it comes to what we're talking about on paper, yeah, a marriage can be.
It shouldn't be a government contract. It shouldn't be a government contract. It shouldn't be a government contract. The government has no right to tell people anything and grant them a special status because they made a decision one day. Everybody should have the same rights on day one, period. Area code 205, welcome to the conversation. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm just listening in, man. I'm just, the way I feel about it, man, I'm just glad that this issue is like slowly but surely coming to an end, in my opinion. I mean,
what part of Alabama do you live in?
Birmingham.
Okay, so you're in Birmingham.
Yeah, this is Chase, man.
Oh, what's up, man?
What's my little brother? What up, bro?
What's up, man? Yeah, man, I'm just glad. I'm glad it's coming to it. I'm glad I'm starting to see it come to an end, because, man, a lot of people, like, especially in our culture, man, really have been engulfed in this issue. I mean, I know it's a big issue, man, but at the same time, man, I just feel like there's like more issues going on, though, man. People have been engulfed in the issue, and I'm saying it's a good thing. I'm glad things are heading into a positive direction, man.
Exactly, and I think to me, it's like it really is just indicative of what's going on at a cultural level, and I really do think we're in the midst of a cultural revolution. I mean, look at the weed, look at the amount of rights gay people are having. Look at the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, we're in the midst of a whole new '60s type of cultural revolution. And the reason why I like that so much is because I think cultural revolution is the way to avoid violent direct revolution. You know what I'm saying? Because these ideas eventually diffuse. The ideas that are held by few, like really strongly, will eventually diffuse into the rest of the population. And then we have cultural revolution and shit changes without having to fire a shot. And that's the best thing about it.
Absolutely. I agree with that, man. That's how I feel, though, man. I mean, there's a lot of big things going on in this generation, man. When I was growing up, I never would thought to see some of the things that we're seeing, you know, in this day and age, man. It's crazy.
Look at the cannabis rights. You know, the amount of people that are starting to realize, okay, we should not be putting people in cages for smoking this plant, because it's basically harmless and shit. If they do it, they do it. It's nothing worse than smoking cigarettes. In fact, the argument can be made, when it comes to health-wise, that smoking cigarettes is a hell of a lot worse than smoking weed. You know what I mean? So the amount of states now, it's like over half. It's like 26 now, I think. So it's just over half of the states in the entire country are already either have medical or completely legal or decriminalized marijuana. And that's just more and more of a sign of this cultural revolution that's happening.
And I'll say this as far as the entire marijuana argument. For me, I think it should be completely legal all the way around just for the fact of freedom. But the fact that it's criminalized for people that actually need it as medicine, that's a crime unto itself. I mean, there are people, they prescribe Oxycontin to people. And we ran a story today talking about how there are more, Big Pharma is creating more heroin addicts because they're getting hooked on Oxycontin and they can't get it anymore. And, they become heroin addicts, but that's okay. But they can't get medical marijuana. And
absolutely. And which one is far more harmful? And which one makes big government and big pharma more money?
Absolutely.
Right now.
Exactly. And the other big thing is that we're talking about 80% of all new heroin addicts are coming off of prescription drugs, and many of them are coming off of prescriptions that were given to them. And I've got a personal friend of mine that's been victimized by this whole entire situation, and basically he had an injury, and then he had been prescribed pain medicine. They prescribed him opiates, and then basically he got hooked on them. And then when he was done healing, they dropped him off the pills, and then he was all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he's addicted to heroin.
Right.
And then he gets caught up, and then now he's victim of the drug war.
Exactly.
God, we've heard that story and told that story so many times in our own hometown. Heroin is a massive epidemic right now in Jefferson County. This is what
209. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. Tell us your name and what you'd like to talk about.
My name is Ruben, and anything you guys are talking about, I'm down with. I mean, I don't really have anything particular. I just came pretty much to listen.
Well, very much appreciate it, Ruben. I really appreciate you listening in.
Yeah. So what are you guys talking about today?
Well, Shannon, I'll let you pick up where you left off.
Where do you want to go with it? The most recent topic we've been discussing is the new bill in the state of Alabama that's been introduced to remove government from marriage. And that's kind of a big thing, particularly here in the state of Alabama, because if you go back and look at the history of Alabama, and we've discussed Alabama's, particularly Birmingham's history a little bit, which is very well known. A lot of people have speculated that bill, and well, not really speculated, that bill was originally, that law was originally introduced into Alabama to have government involved in marriage to prevent the main sole reason was to prevent interracial marriage, which was definitely very, very much against the law in the state of Alabama until, shockingly enough, until very recently. Very recently. I'd have to pull that number up here in a minute, but that's Nick is absolutely right. Anything that we could do to pull the government out of our own private lives. Our government doesn't need to tell us what to eat, what to watch, what to think, what to wear. who to marry, who to not marry. I mean, when did that all of a sudden come into play? I mean, is that what our founding fathers originally came up with when they said, well, okay, we're gonna start this new country, we're gonna call it America, and we're gonna go ahead and make sure that while we're in America that you can do this and you can't do that, you can't do that.
Restrictions may apply.
Yeah, it did not. It did not start off like that at all.
Wait, Shannon, I've seen Bill O'Reilly. I've watched Sean Hannity. The government needs to tell you what to do. They love you.
Oh yeah, they do. They love you in the same way that guy in the shower in jail loves you.
Right, and here's the thing. Especially that really aggravates me with them, is because MSNBC, they're just lunatic liars. And CNN, they try to tell the truth, and they're just lunatic liars. And Fox are lunatic liars as well, but they try to target the Christian vote. They try to target that and steer it into some bonkers direction where George W. Bush is the big Christian. We're going to go kill a bunch of people now.
Absolutely.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of the Crusades a little bit, don't it?
A little bit.
Yeah, and the other thing is, most of these people, despite the fact that they may be church going, and despite the fact that Jesus teaches right there in the damn Bible that the golden rule and peace and acceptance and all this other stuff, and then they turn around and watch Fox News and then say, oh yeah, let's go just bomb all the brown people in the Middle East, turn the place to glass. They don't care. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show how easily co-opted people can be by this mainstream media.
But think about what we were just discussing here with the article from Kerry earlier about the heroin addicts and the way that they're coming off of prescription drugs. Okay, you're going to have somebody on Fox News tell you, but it was prescribed by a doctor. It's okay. It's not bad. A doctor said it's okay. Oh, marijuana, that's going to kill you. That's evil. Meanwhile, there's children having seizures that are having to move to Colorado. We talked about it last night. There's soldiers with PTSD that need it. And yet, Oxycontin, whatever.
Oxycontin's cool.
Do your thing, because a doctor
Vicodin's cool.
A doctor signed a sheet of paper. So that's you're morally cleared now. Because
the doctor's only going to sign the sheet of paper as long as you pay him, Scotty. Come on now.
But they view it as soon as authority signs off on a sin, it's no longer a sin.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Yep.
And
just like two men marrying.
Exactly. And these same people say that God is the most important thing in their life, but they wait for the government to grant them permission to do it. Yep. And then yet, when the government tells them to do something that's clearly a sin, which as far as bombing the entire world, they're okay with that. So are they following God or are they following the government?
I don't know, but it sounds like government's kind of become their god. I think there's stuff in the big book about that, isn't there?
Yeah. Shall pay your taxes to the Romans. Right?
If I remember right, it was the government implicated in killing Jesus. If Jesus was on the planet today, Sean Hannity would be screaming for his head.
Yeah, this dirty hippie right here.
Yeah.
I was going to go out here and tell all these people just to love one another. What kind of crap is that? And there'll be some little graphic with, Jesus with his middle finger up or something like that. Yeah. I love that guy. He's an asshole.
So, we've got the situation that we talked about at the beginning of the show, Shannon, which I'm still been kind of thrown off this entire show because of that. I really don't even know how to swallow that. It bothers me so much.
But at the same time, we don't have a choice. The sentence has already been passed. He should be spending his first week in jail. That took place earlier this month. So I'm sure he's already had a couple weekends in jail to think about what he's done.
But what do we And I don't know the answer. I'm not going to suggest I know the answer. I know what I can do in my own personal life is to love people. To me, that's what it's about, is to just love. Pure love. You know, push that forward, treat everyone the same. Treat everyone as you want to be treated. I don't want anybody to treat me bad. I'm not going to act like I'm like, oh, I'm this, I'm that. I don't want anybody to treat me like a jerk. I may be a jerk and probably deserve it, but, you know, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, you are a jerk sometimes. I'll tell you that now.
That's all right. I can accept that. But, you know, if I was on the street, I would want somebody, you know, to help me out. But everybody looks down on these people. It's just, I can't get my head around it.
Tomorrow, man, you know, here's one thing I want to ask the audience too, because we're talking about starting to cover a lot more music and stuff, and that's probably been pretty evident from the stuff that we've been talking about. You know, the articles that we've been posting the last several weeks. You know, there's one up there with Tupac talking about gun rights, and there's one about one with Bone Thugs talking about you know, some really deep stuff, right? And so we wanna know like what people think about that. But also tomorrow we're going to be posting another video, a music video from one of our content creators called "Nobody for President," and I showed the video to you on our way home from getting some food earlier, and it was a really good, you know, piece of art. It was really good, you know, it was a good video. It's good music. What do you guys think of? You know, we talk about what we can do. How do we fix this? I know you said it earlier. We haven't even got to that. I think music is a way to keep stepping forward. And the music can carry the message much better than any of us can. I mean, you know, I think there's musicians out there that are way more talented than we are that are going to be able to like make this message.
Speak for yourself. But yeah, Chase, what do you think about that? I mean, do you see there being an advantage in pursuing that to convince people?
You talking about using music as a route to wake people up?
Yes.
Most definitely, man. Y'all was actually talking about this I can't remember the girl's name y'all had on the show, but she was talking about how pretty much the corporations, the music industry, they've had this, you know, monopoly over the music industry for a while, just bringing just this watered down just crap, man. It's just, the music is crap. But I mean, if you go back and you look in like 60s, 70s, heck, even in the late 80s, there was this really good period in the late 80s where you had a lot of political hip hop artists that came out, like Public Enemy and like Gangstar and stuff like that. I mean, music has always been very revolutionary, and it started movements and revolutions and all kinds of stuff. But I mean, if people can just get away from all this crap that the media is pushing down people's throats, man, I mean, and start actually really paying attention to the artist, the actual artist. I mean, the painters, the actual painters in the music, the artists. I mean, yeah, we can, but it's got to be delivered in a way, I guess, to the masses. I don't know how to put it, but I mean, if they can just start to just pay attention more to that aspect of the music industry.
But here's a kind of the devil's advocate side of that, Chase, is Bill Hicks said it best, is there's certain people that seems like they've been on this ride before. And they come here and they tell us, oh, it's just a ride. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Just love. And the people that are trying to keep this ride going go, kill that person. Kill them now. They're going to blow everything.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I love that quote. Yeah, man, and I agree with that, man. I mean, it's true. You know, you get a good thing going, and then, you know, somebody comes in, you know what I mean.
Right. And it seems like we allow fear to take over from the love. And if everybody did just pursue love, we would all be okay. But no matter if you're in the
Well,
projects
now,
against
bear in
city.
mind, we did go through a period of that in the 60s, and the government did everything they could in their power to quell that, if you remember. Remember John Lennon? Remember that fellow?
I remember. But listen, if you're in the projects of Gate City or you're living up on the top of the hill in the Hollywood Hills, you're reacting out of either fear or love. And it's up to you to make a decision every second. Your next decision is based out of fear or love. Which am I going to let take over? Which am I going to let rule my decision-making basis? Am I going to be scared and am I going to react because I'm fearful, because I'm going to let fear take over? Or am I going to let love consume me and love the next person next to me? And, we talk about, well, what if somebody robs me? Look, if everybody could transition into love, well, why does somebody rob somebody? Because they don't have something. But if everybody loved somebody, then they would give to the next person. We could solve all our problems in this world with love.
It's like what Jimi Hendrix said. If the love of power, I think, how does it go? It's like if the love of power, I forget how the quote goes. It's like if the power of love overcomes the love of power, then the world will know peace.
Boom.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a good quote.
Humans throughout history, though, have been pretty warlike, and we've been throughout a long time of violence and, conquering and imperialism and stuff like that. I think that it's possible to come into a new age, man. A new age, it's like, what I'm thinking is that it's like, the Renaissance of old, it's like something like that where it's really a strong, and like we mentioned earlier, a cultural revolution that's like really, really strong. I mean, I don't put that out of the realm of possibility. I think it could happen sometime soon, maybe. It might not happen, but it could. And I mean, hopefully we'd be a part of it. I mean, hopefully we'd be around to like witness it. You know what I'm saying? That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I think that would be great, if we were around for it. But, maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and everything's different. I'll say this. I woke up and saw that the Alabama Senate had passed that bill and was shocked. And was like, wow.
Oh, you and me both.
Yeah.
Keep him. Hey, we can't forget that this thing still has to be signed by the governor, and there's no telling if he's going to sign it.
But it doesn't even really matter. It's like, yes, I agree with you on the premise of the law, but just this like significance.
At least symbolically, it sends a strong message. That even a state like Alabama, that's been historically known to be repressive,
and they're leading the pack.
And as Shannon was mentioning, that they were literally even repressing interracial marriage for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Let alone same-sex marriage. So for them to do something like this, it is pretty symbolic, and it is a signal of things to come, I think.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we're getting close to the last few minutes of the show here, and I want to give everybody a second here to say anything they've got on their mind. Chase, I want to go to you. Any parting words for us, sir?
Hey, man, thanks for having me on the show, man. Oh, and one more thing. I heard last night's show, dude. Absolutely loved it, man. It was an excellent Memorial Day show.
I was really proud of last night's show. I think it was, if not the best show I've been a part of, it was definitely one of the best shows I've been a part of. I was really proud of it.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much, Chase, and I'll be talking to you Thursday, for sure.
All right, man. You have a good one, man.
You too.
All right, bye.
All right, Shannon.
It's up to you, Scott, to hashtag it up. Richard Scott Burton. Richard Scott Burton, former police chief of Mount Airy, Georgia. I want everybody to get as pissed about this as we are.
All right, well, we'll do it. Nick will be back tomorrow night for the Incoming Radio Wednesday. Next time.
Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.